All right. Welcome to the first time I'm talking about the Heretic School, which is something that I have created, an idea that I have, and something that I think is really needed in the world right now. So, where do I begin? Um, about a year ago, or a year and a half ago, I found myself in New Zealand. And that was when the pandemic began, or the COVID situation, let's call it. And I had this experience that there were two different conversations going on through the lens of my social media. And one conversation was immediately dismissive, that the government or the globalists or the global powers that be were making this up, and that they were just trying to get control of people. And on the other side, there was people saying, you need to listen to everything that the government's saying. You need to not question anything. You need to not, the people that are questioning it are conspiracy theorists and they're dangerous and they're going to get us all killed, etc. So there were two narratives, right? And I would come to learn over time and come to name these narratives: the dominant narrative and the counter narrative. And in many ways, they're connected, and in many ways, to me, what I found is that neither of them resonated for me. And that was the beginning. That was the beginning of my journey into being a heretic. And I define a heretic as someone that creates their own reality, that finds their own evidence, that creates their own narratives, that continues to ask questions, continues to learn, continues to have experiences and integrate that into the way that they see the world. And, I'm in a practice of this just as much as I would like other people to join me in that. And it's not easy. It's not an easy process. It's actually quite emotional at times when you realize that there's a lot of information that you haven't wanted to look at. There's a lot of people that you've judged. There's people that you've thought were, they were wrong, or they were evil, or they were bad because they had different beliefs. And I think, if I go to the philosophical part of me, it's, I look at the world and it's polarized. I look at, social media and it's polarized, and I see that as binary thinking played out. There's two options, there's two narratives. One is right and one is wrong. And depending on where you are, everyone thinks that they're right. And you have these two sides, and they're both right. And they both think that the other side is bad and evil and dangerous. And, there are narratives in the media, there are narratives from the government, no matter where you live, that perpetuate this type of thinking. And to me, narratives are connected to paradigms, which is connected to the systems that we live in. And one of the things that an assumption that I'm operating under for the Heretic School is that we all live in domination systems. And you may be, if you're a Buddhist monk living in Tibet right now, you could maybe argue that you are not living in a domination system, but most people do. Most people, no matter where you are, in Europe, the US, Africa, New Zealand, Australia, Asia, we all are living in domination systems. And domination systems are socialist and communist just as much as they are free market and capitalist. And I define domination systems as really a place that holds power or centralizes power, and that power is held by a small percentage of the population, a small group of people, the few versus the many. And it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way because we give that power away as people. We give that power away because we are afraid, or we're told that we need to be afraid. We give that power away because we're told things are dangerous, or other people are bad or wrong and they need to be dealt with or exterminated, or whatever the narrative is. And we've seen it throughout history, and it all fits under this domination system, this domination behavior. that I think needs to end. And the Heretic School is a place that is open learning. There's no right and wrong. There's no forcing people to think any way that they any certain way. You are allowed to explore and create your own story. You're allowed to explore and create the narratives that you see in the world. And I think, just to be explicit, one of the things that I think about is stories and narratives. And these are actually two different things in my mind. And I define a story as the way that we talk about ourselves, the way that we see our reality with inside of us and for ourselves. And then the narratives, to me, are the things that we talk about, the story, the ways we describe the world outside of us, are narratives. And so I'm going to use those words very particularly and differently, but they are still our way of making meaning, our way of looking at our reality, looking at our world, understanding ourselves in that world. And they can blur, right? Where our own reality is affecting our behavior to the outside world, or what we're thinking or feeling. Something that happened to us from the past is impacting our way that we're seeing other people, that we're seeing a situation. And I call that subjective reality. And there's many layers to why that happens, and the emotions and trauma and all those things that are, I couldn't do the Heretic School without having that foundation for myself, and also helping to teach it for other people, because you really don't want to see information that triggers you. You don't want to be uncomfortable with information that's upsetting or sad or hurt, that hurts, because we don't have the emotional tools to process it. We don't have the emotional intelligence and ability that we've done this stuff in the past, where we're able to work through it and take awareness from this new information, and not see it as a negative, but see it as something that we can then take action upon, because we now have awareness. We now understand that the world isn't fair, that there's police brutality in a way that's completely unfair for Black people and Indigenous people, and that the world that we live in is not is systemically slanted towards the people that are wealthy and economically advantaged, and that's something that we've come to only appreciate as white people in the very recent past. And there's so much more. There's so much more that I continue to open my mind to. And there's a lot of ways that we take information, we take new information, and then we blame other people with that new information. And I don't think that that's the way to go either. So there's a process in place. There are frameworks that I use, and there's a lot of questions that I'm asking, that I'm inviting other people into. So what I'm thinking is that I'm going to do a 90-minute workshop. That'll be the first version of the Heretic School. And I invite people to come. I invite people to join. It'll be in a video call format. It'll be in a group. I will do a lot of the guiding. I'll do a lot of the content, but I also want to open it up to be a space where people contribute, where people ask questions, where people share what's coming up for them, or what their experiences are, what their beliefs are, because I think having a safe space where people can express their thoughts, where they can express free speech, they can say what they feel and what they believe without being shot down, without being made to feel wrong, without being told uncalled names, I think is a really important space that we need more than ever as humans. It's really that simple. And something that I'm practicing is nonviolent communication. So that's something that I will bring as well to the toolkit of what I believe is a very good way to communicate with others, to also observe and not judge, to notice that our feelings are ours, that's our responsibility. And we also can still have boundaries. We can also still communicate to other people that we need something, and we can make requests upon those needs. And to me, these are all things that we haven't learned, but we can learn, and we can unlearn the things that we learned before that I think are not serving us anymore. So if this sounds interesting to you, I would love to hear from you. Feel free to message me anywhere you can find me, and I'll give you the information for the Heretic School and the first workshop. And yeah, we'll go from there. So thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions as well, please feel free to reach out. Thank you again for listening. Bye-bye.